Hi everyone, welcome to the Crash Cinnamon podcast. This is your host McKenna. I'm so glad that you're listening and tuning in wherever you are in the world. I was looking at the analytics the other day and I saw that people listen in Jordan, in Suriname. Wow. So if you're out there in Suriname and you listen to my podcast, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for engaging with the content that I create. Really, this podcast was created mainly to talk about things I'm passionate about, things that happen to me or have happened to me, and things people constantly send me messages about, text me about, or want me to discuss. So it's easy if I record it and talk about it in this setting. So today we are talking about boundaries, and it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart for many reasons, because boundaries is a constant conversation for everyone. It's not just really for any particular person. And I know many of you have engaged with the art that I put out to set the pace, or rather set the tone for this conversation. And it says, you are not expected. You're not required to set yourself on fire in order to keep others warm. Now, you may think that is a bit extreme. However, I know people who've literally not set themselves on fire, but have almost died because they were trying to make sure others are okay, they're comfortable, at the expense of their own health, at the expense of their own finances, at the expense of their emotional well-being. And that's where all this came from, basically. So what are boundaries? Boundaries, really, in a nutshell, how I'd look at it, are just rules and limits you set as a person for how others will deal with you. And also, it's rules that ensure that you're safe. These rules also limit how people deal with you. These rules also help you to know how to respond when people cross the line, cross this boundary. Boundaries are imaginary. They're not really set somewhere you can see there's a boundaries. Okay. However, each and every one of us have to set their own boundaries. It's unfortunate, actually, in everything life skills that we are taught in school or in our families. Boundaries, not many people are taught to have boundaries. Not many people are taught what is healthy boundaries, how to come up with boundaries. And then when they grow up and they're adulting and, start working, have relationships, they struggle because they realize either they don't have boundaries, or their boundaries are too rigid, or they just don't know. They're really struggling because they're constantly being violated, and they don't know what to do because nobody has ever explained to them this thing. And I believe it's not something innately. You can create them, already as children, we know what we liked, what we didn't like. Yeah, so as you're growing up, you also know what you like and what you don't like, and some of it actually falls into the category of boundaries. So um let's just agree one thing: boundaries are not something you set today and that's it for the rest of your life. Boundaries are ongoing. They're almost like you review them, almost like the way you review a plan. Anything, it is reviewable. Okay. So how do we know we have healthy boundaries? How would you know you have healthy boundaries? Do you think, actually, let's start there. Do you think you have healthy boundaries? Do you? So, if you have healthy boundaries, you would be feeling confident in communicating what you need, okay, and how you want to be treated. You will be less stressed and anxious when you meet this particular group of people, or you're in the presence of these people you have kind of set a boundary for. You would be more assertive, you would go for things you want, you'd be more adventurous, you would not be so self-conscious about what will others think, what will this, so that's how you know you have healthy boundaries. Secondly, or rather to add on to that, for those who are dating, especially, if watch yourself on the first date. What do you overshare? Do you say everything? Give body count as well, so that's signs of possibly you don't have very good boundaries. Yeah. So those are kind of things I want to look at today, and possibly at the end of this you can grade yourself and find out if you actually have boundaries, and hopefully I can help you today set your own boundaries. Okay, so do you have a problem saying no? Do you have a problem hearing no? Because boundaries is about that as well. It's allowing and accepting that somebody will say no. Yeah, and also boundaries mean saying no. So if you have healthy boundaries, you will use words like, I'm sorry, I am concerned about you, but I can't do this and that. I'm sorry, I cannot continue doing this and that for you. Okay, I love you, but this cannot go on, especially if you're in a situation where this particular person is abusive verbally or even physically. You have to send the boundaries. You have to say, if you continue dealing with me in this way, if you're continuing to be insultive, to be abusive, our relationship cannot go on. And be very clear. So one of the things about boundaries is, do you know what boundaries you need? Do you know why we need boundaries? Yeah. Boundaries means, if you have them, it just means you value yourself, you value your emotions, you value your needs, you value who you are. Yeah. Boundaries also create safety net, and it's very, very important, especially when we come to physical boundaries. If you already have set clear boundaries with people, then it creates a safety net for you, even financially. Actually, this is one of the things I started realizing when growing up in my household, that there are some certain things I wasn't comfortable with. So one of the things that I share with people, and they find it very peculiar, and I didn't know actually it was across, it was breaking or rather violating a boundary, is my dad, all our lives, as long as we lived in the house, he used to open our mail. So everybody's mail he'd open, and I used to feel, I said, when I got to my late 20s, actually not, yeah, because then had moved to a different city, but still maintained my parents' home address as my main address. And he'd read my mail and then call me on the phone and say this and such, and I was like, oh my god. And there are days I know this is bad, I almost wanted to write like a letter that would shock him to death, literally, because I didn't know how to approach it with him. And he's a lovely sweet guy, but he doesn't understand sometimes. Then actually now he's in a very good place. Then he was not able to understand that even though he's the parent, head of the household, there's some things, no, that's a boundary. And it's very difficult when you're dealing with parents, especially when you're living at home, and they're providing things for you. You almost feel at their mercy, and you almost feel like you don't have a say, because if you challenge a certain situation, if you feel it's violating one of your boundaries, then you're worried if it will mean that you don't have a place to stay, you don't have, food or clothing. And I know a lot of people, I've said it before in this podcast, that I used to be a careers advisor, and a lot of young people at help, they struggle. Sometimes they were kicked out because they challenged a particular boundary, where there's gross, and I mean gross, violations of boundaries by their parents or guardians or the people they're living with, or the boyfriend of the mom or the girlfriend of the dad. It was really heartbreaking to read, to hear some of the stories week on week, and I'm like, this is only a 14-year-old, and he or she doesn't have to go through all this now, But I was also very impressed that they were able to stand up for themselves and say, no, I'm not prepared to take on this. If it means I'm on the street, so be it. And they were so courageous and brave, and I used to admire that. I'm like, I don't know if I'd have the courage to stand up for myself like that. So yeah, so boundaries are important so that people know how to deal with you. So how do we set boundaries? Establish what a boundary is, what is important for you. And boundaries really stem from values. Values are what we believe in, what we anchors us as human beings. Yeah. So for example, if family is really important for you, in work you'll be saying, I'm not prepared to work past my prescribed time because I have to spend time with my family. And you put that there. Or I'm not going to be answering emails during the weekend. And especially the kind of life we're living now, given the pandemic, we're working from home, and sometimes the home work boundary is very blurred. And I have colleagues who work at the weekends and doing all kinds of things, and I'm like, no, that's a violation of your boundaries, really. And it's difficult. I can't say that it's all easy, that when you go and state to your boss or to your partner, your neighbor, or your friend that these are the rules I want you to abide or deal with me with, they won't all be happy clappy and happy. And that's one of the things I need to let you know is, once you express your boundary, be firm but be polite. However, be very assertive in your tone, okay? And be prepared that they would not listen to you. They might not accept it. And some of your boundaries might actually align with those that you're already closely relating with. For example, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. But some others are very unique and pertain to you as a person. So don't apologize for that. Do not feel you have to compromise on things that are specifically for you, okay? Because without those, you can't be you. Let's put it that way. You can't be you. You can't be who you are. You won't be living your life authentically if you can't be like that. So I would suggest, take a pen and paper, just write what's important to you. If you're having a challenging relationship with somebody, but write down what you think is making this relationship to be challenging. What are the violations of the boundaries? Are there actually any boundaries? If there are not, please establish some and communicate them effectively with this person. And if they're not prepared to take that on board, that means they just don't value you. They don't see you or regard you in the same way as you do. And sometimes you have to evaluate, does this friendship, relationship need to continue then? If this person is not taking me seriously, if they're crossing boundaries 24/7, should we continue be in a relationship? So yeah, I want us to live healthier lives, I've said, in the time that we're on earth. So, and boundaries will help you do that. So in terms of knowing that you set boundaries, you can always check with yourself of how you behave when that boundary is violated. Or, I'm sorry, there's some people setting out fireworks during the day, so for the noise, sorry about that. So I'm just waiting for it to go. Yeah, so Where was I? Yes. So I was saying, in terms of boundaries, to know that you're healthy is how you are, even physically. If you're feeling confident, if you're eating better, you're sleeping better. Honestly, you will sleep better when you have set boundaries. Um, I'd say my caution though is this. Like I said earlier, boundaries are reviewable. So start with very tight, strict rules for whoever, and then loosen them up as times go on, as you continue to relate with this person. If you need to compromise on a certain thing, please do. If it means it will enable the relationship to be better, then please do that. Don't be too rigid, because those who you've seen with tight, very rigid boundaries, you see they have problems even relating with others. They're untrusting of even their partners, and you can always see this. And I'd say treat them with caution. If you're dating somebody or in a relationship with somebody who's really rigid, try and find out what went wrong, what happened before they met you, and possibly if it's something you can be able to support them with, please do. If it's something they need to see a professional, for example a counselor, therapist, then encourage them to do that. And if you feel you're capable, you have the capacity to support them in that phase of their life, then be there for them. Yeah. So I hope you've learned something today. I hope you will take your boundaries seriously. I hope you will value yourself. This is about valuing yourself. Yeah. This is not about being a hero. You're not Clark Kent to everybody. In fact, you're not Clark Kent. So you're not Superman, Superwoman, for the sake of gender balance here. You're not there to save the day. Yeah. Even as a mom, even as a parent, even as a father, you are not the be all and the end all of your children. Yeah, you have to have also your space. Like one of the healthy boundaries physically is to take time for yourself. You can say to someone, I love you very much, but I need some physical space right now to go enjoy yourself. Yeah. And it's all right. It's all right, and it's healthy. And if they value you, your family or the people you're relating with, they will understand and they will appreciate why you need that. Yeah. And please, most importantly, do not agree to be abused, insulted in any way, because you are precious. And if somebody is violating that boundary, in fact, I should say highly suggest that you should reevaluate the relationship with them, because violence, abuse, insults of any kind should not be tolerated where there is acceptance, understanding, and love. It shouldn't exist. Yeah. So I wish you all a lovely day. And yeah, please, if you want to engage more about these boundaries, please get in touch with us on our social media pages, and I will speak about the workplace boundaries, because it's been interesting actually what I've been learning in work, in the world of work, and I think it'll be very useful for some people. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Crash Cinnamon, and see you on the next one.